All right, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to the No Fatwas Given podcast, episode 4. It's 4. Inshallah, we'll be more consistent. So I'm Saad Sheikh, and we'll start. So now, the elections just passed. I think that's a good place to start. Donald Trump won. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so he basically dominated, is what happened, right? There was a red wave. We all got thrown off because the pollsters kept saying it's going to be a very close election. It's going to be a very close election. You know, Kamala Harris, Trump are neck and neck. Every poll would be either Kamala's up or Trump is up. What was very skewed were the betting markets. This was a new thing, by the way.
They had betting markets. So that's
yeah.
They had betting markets.
Poly Market and Kalshi. These were two betting markets.
You could buy shares.
Yeah, you could buy shares. You could bet on the outcome of the election. You can, in fact, bet on like the outcomes of all kinds of elections, like Senate elections, congressional elections. And that market was showing, initially, it was kind of neck and neck. And 50, then, 50. I think a week or two before the election, it was highly skewed towards Trump, like 70% chance of Trump winning.
Yeah, 90.
And 90. While the polls were still showing, they're neck and neck.
Yeah.
Actually, the polls showed in favor of Kamala. Poly Market was the only thing that showed Trump winning. But I mean, does that even mean anything? It means nothing.
You know what it means?
I think it means nothing.
It means people, and you know what? People will see that and want to win their bet and then vote the way of their bet.
No, it means people are not only voting.
That's actually a very important point you made. It's try to commercializing this whole election, right? Because this one point is, even if Trump was going to win, they put it out there, and if people are buying a stock which is lower in value, which is Kamala's stock at that point, and if, for instance, Kamala wins, they'll make a lot of money out of it.
It's not lower value. Actually, the way this stuff works, it's almost like betting. It's betting, right?
It is betting.
Yeah, it is betting. So, I mean, for example, when you watch UFC and, you know, the underdog has a plus symbol.
Right.
The one who's winning or who's expected to win the match has a minus symbol. The idea is, if you're going to bet on the guy who's most likely to win, then your chances of losing money is a lot greater. So let's say you put in $10. You might get $1 for every $10 you put in because the guy who's expected to win wins. And you'll get $9 for every dollar when the underdog wins. That's right? True. And those betting odds keep changing as you know the match goes on. So let's say it's a 5-round match. 3 rounds in, the guy has won 3 rounds in a row. Now, if that underdog wins, somehow he gets a knockout finish. Now you're going to make bank. Because at this point, the odds are so skewed.
I think the odds reflect how much to get into the bet now.
Yeah, exactly.
So
right now.
Because you could bet before the fight, and those odds were different, right? But at that exact moment, the odds change because now if you come into the fight, clearly one guy's winning.
Did you guys follow the polling on news continuously? Like how many electorate votes and everything? Because I was, for some random reason, I never follow, but I was with a group of people who were following it to every single state.
You mean on the day of?
On the day of.
Right,
so because it finally came out at 3:30 or something at midnight that he will sweep out. But they made sure that it prolongs. They made sure. He was winning.
What channel were you watching?
I don't know. It was CNN?
CNN or MC. Those channels took forever to declare Trump won.
They didn't.
Fox News declared Trump winning
earlier.
Really early.
In my opinion, so I watched several broadcasts, right? So I was primarily watching ABC when I was at work, and Fox and ABC at work. And then when I came home, I was watching ABC and actually the PBT. The PBT podcast one.
That was the biggest one.
It was the biggest one, actually. And so this is what I saw. So I think about 15, Fox called it first. Before everyone else.
15, okay.
At this point, it was super clear, by the way. And people are like, there's a slim... I mean, at that point, even ABC was like, look, we're not calling it yet.
They were waiting for Minnesota.
Yeah.
Michigan.
Michigan and Nevada.
Pennsylvania. It was Pennsylvania.
No, sorry,
Pennsylvania. And then once Alaska came through, and I think one vote for Nebraska or Maine or something like that, because Maine and Nebraska, they split their electoral college depending on how many votes they get. And so once he got the vote from Maine, he got the vote from Pennsylvania, Nebraska, and he got Alaska. Then he hit the 270 mark.
Did Kamala win Arizona?
No.
She lost every single swing state.
She basically lost everything. I saw in the end there were like 6 states, and it was like, I think it was 247. He was at 247 or something, and 2 out of the 6 or 7 states what made him the winner. It was very clear.
Those were the swing states.
And it was very clear at that point that he's going to win. But they did not announce. They wouldn't announce a single result. It took them 2.5 hours to give one state after that.
She didn't concede until the next day, like pretty late in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Candace Owens was pretty upset about that. She's like, this is why we want a proper woman to be a leader and be a president, not somebody like this who can't even concede defeat. Her followers, her supporters are with her in this hall and they're crying that they're losing. And Kamala won't even address, be like, hey, you know what? We fought the good fight. No, she needed to wait till the next day when somebody scripted a speech for her, and then she said it. By the way, it was a great speech. It's probably the best speech she's ever given. Did you guys listen to it?
Yeah,
actually,
it was really good.
I heard literally the last few lines.
A little bit.
But yeah,
it was a great concession speech. I loved her statement about, it's only when the night is dark that you see the stars at night. Oh,
Okay.
Oh,
Did Biden say anything?
Biden?
Biden?
Does he speak still?
No, but
No, is he allowed to speak?
No, I'm serious. People are confused.
Because Biden should have said something.
No. In fact, people still don't know if Biden's even the president. People keep forgetting.
Yeah.
Because right now there was some report, that people in North Gaza, they can't return because, Israeli forces aren't letting them come back. And people are like, look at who's the president now. Like, are you sure you remember who the president is? It's Biden. Biden is still the president. I know. It's not even Kamala. It's still Biden.
yeah. But moving forward, what do you guys think about the fallout? Meaning, all these Democrats, the fact that they took forever just to even concede that Trump won this, the fact that she finally came the following morning to give her, concession speech, and then of course you saw The View. Everyone's waiting for The View and their reaction, and all these kind of little channels.
It's
MSNBC. Their reactions are
all blame game. The thing is, the main thing, the talking points, at least from the right, is the Democrats don't know why they lost. And I like the analysis of the right. A lot of these people are saying basically like, you just victimize half the nation. You call them Nazis, garbage, and their entire platform. The reason Biden won was, I'm not Trump. And that's fine for Biden because he came right after Trump. So just saying I'm not Trump, that was enough for him to get elected. And plus he was Obama's vice president. So there was a double win for him. But Kamala saying I'm not Trump is not good enough because people weren't happy with what Biden did. She had to separate herself from Biden, and she never separated herself from Biden. She essentially said that I'm going to do the same thing that Biden did. Mm-hmm. But she ran the entire campaign, I'm not Trump.
Do you think her campaign was strong enough?
No, it was terrible.
At this point, I feel like she absolutely didn't try at all to win this election.
Yeah, she really failed on many levels, right? She failed to... In fact, she was trying to cater to the Republicans that voted for Nikki Haley. Do you know that? The reason why she got Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney, the butchers of Muslims, nobody likes them. They're warmongers.
Left doesn't like them.
The reason she catered to Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney is so that you could get the people who voted for Nikki Haley in the primaries. 200,000 people who voted for Nikki Haley, she wanted them. The hardest thing to do is to get people to switch their party preference. She aimed for that instead of trying to get the easy Muslim vote, where she could have just been like, you know what, I'm going to stop the genocide. Absolutely. And of course,
no, but she didn't get anybody though.
She didn't.
She forget getting people who changed or something, or getting people to change. Donald Trump got people to change.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, Hispanics. I think there was a thing to Hispanics. Ever since they've been recording statistics for elections, Hispanics have never ever had voted more for Republicans than they have now.
It's very strange.
Yeah, the women were a vote, right?
Same.
The African American vote,
the new voter.
For the last, I think, 40 years or something. There were some metrics on this that Donald Trump has beat the last 40 years in terms of African Americans voting for Republicans. Right? He's beaten all kinds of metrics, and so I think it comes down to this: the entire Democratic campaign was, "We are not Trump, and anybody who votes for him are idiots." But they were never addressing any of the issues that people were bringing up, right? They were alienating people, like, on the campaign trail. Somebody said in one of Kamala's rallies, "Jesus is Christ," and she literally says to him, "I think you're in the wrong rally."
Oh my God!
Yeah, you're completely and the people who were saying something about Palestine, right? She's like, no, shut up! I'm speaking right now.
I'm speaking.
She shut them down too.
In fact,
so she shut down everybody that could have.
It became a meme almost.
It became a meme, yeah. So I mean, they were not speaking to anybody, and they were alienating more than 50% of America. So
one of the polls I was checking, it said 70% of the new voters voted for Trump, which means then I was thinking new voters are either who turned 18 in the last 4 years. So they're 18 to 22 right now, or they're immigrants who converted to, they have a passport now, they became citizens. So those two should be primarily easy votes for Democrats, if you think about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were basically Biden's votes, which are now 70% Trump without him trying.
Without him trying, yes. Actually, this is a huge thing. People are saying, Andrew Schultz's podcast, right? He's the first one who I think interviewed Donald Trump. He himself says, I tried getting Kamala on my podcast. She never did, right? The few podcasts she did, and one of them, they say that she did well. I actually didn't listen to those. But on the other hand, Trump, Joe Rogan, Andrew Schultz, he met Aiden Ross, right? He met all these people, and that is the new base.
Yeah.
Talking about the young people, the young votes.
Right.
He's on podcasts. The young people don't listen to these long form news and stuff. These podcasts are what Aiden Ross. Now you have all the young people with you. Joe Rogan, he has the biggest podcast in the world.
Yeah, I think this was a very important thing in this election, which was it was a test to see if the mainstream media still controls the narrative, because they took a completely useless person, which was Kamala Harris, right? Nobody liked her as vice president. She had nothing of substance the entire time.
They skipped the primaries again.
Yeah, she had nothing, and they took her from zero to hero. That's basically what happened overnight. She became the most successful, most amazing person in the world.
She was vice president. I'll give her that. So.
Okay, because she just got selected because she's a DEI hire, basically, right? She's black or Indian and whatever.
She's everything.
She filled all the categories, but she never got a single vote. She didn't get a vote.
Yeah,
right?
She didn't get a vote.
Anyways, so this was all about how can the media portray a candidate in such a way that the American people vote her to become president. And what happened here is we saw that the media's narrative has been broken. Now what matters is actual policy, engaging with your voters, talking, long form podcasts, not scripted speeches and scripted interviews.
Or celebrity endorsements. The celebrity endorsements, Liz Cheney and stuff, they just hurt her.
So a couple of things. So I was listening to Andrew Schultz's podcast about kind of the aftermath of this, basically what we're doing now. And he had a couple of things. They debated this. And I like one thing he said is, so mainstream media, he's like, they're saying, is mainstream media dead? Meaning clearly the mainstream media, for the most part, besides maybe Fox News, everyone, MSNBC, CNN, ABC, naming them all, they're all pro-Democratic Party, kind of more or less anti-Trump, right? And so now, and then obviously Hollywood, Usher, this, that, Cardi B, whatever, they're all coming and saying, my vote's for Kamala, J-Lo, whatever, all this stuff, right? And so now, but despite all that, despite everyone being pro-Kamala, all these celebrities coming out and saying vote for her, she lost. And it was a landslide, right? So then is the reason why is that she just was such a poor candidate, or that their campaign did such a poor job that she couldn't even, she was so bad that legacy media and Hollywood couldn't overcome her badness? Or is legacy media dead? And the fact that she didn't come on podcasts like Andrew Schultz's podcast or Theo Vaughn or Joe Rogan.
I think the reason she didn't come on is because she is bad. She cannot, the way that Trump does 1 hour, interviews, the way he goes on rally, he goes on the stage, you could tell he's not reading from a script.
Yes, often.
When he's on in the rallies, right? She reads so much from the script that they're even saying their earrings are like, what do you call it? Bluetooth earrings that she's getting like fed all these lines. There's a whole thing on that when she was doing her debate. But she was not able to do those podcasts the way he is able to.
If you remember initially when Trump won the first time, a lot of Republicans were not happy that he won.
They were not. Yeah.
They were not. Now they have no option because Trump is the popular vote.
Trump is the party.
Trump is Republican.
Yeah.
Republican Party holds nothing. I think if it was anyone else right now against her, they would have lost. Despite everything, despite whatever crap she's done. Mind my language.
No, that's fine.
But I think Trump, because of Trump, they had to give in to his ideology rather than the party's ideology. And now he comes on, and it's so easy for him to go on these podcasts is because he's not, as you said, he's not reading off of script. He's just going off on his own. And he knows what he wants to do and what he doesn't want to do. And he sticks to his ground regardless. He doesn't say, he's not going to say gays are good. Never. Not a single time. He's not confused about it. He's very upfront. He's saying
he's
this
very
is wrong.
whatever
and
he
this is
believes. He's
right.
very consistent.
He's
on.
political
very,
about it.
yeah, he's very, like, he might change his statement on, like, before he would say, throw the Mexicans out, but now he says no, we need them, bring them. So on his interview, he says, I'm going to bring them through proper channel. So he changed the verbiage. He said something like that, right?
He did, but he said this before too. So before, but the thing is, he's just toned down his rhetoric. Maybe it's
Exactly.
age, maybe he's just tired now, whatever it is, or maybe this is just a smart move.
Yeah.
Before he would be like, they bring in their rapists, they're bringing this, they're bringing that, they're all doing this. He's like, and then he would say this before too.
Right.
In the last, the previous elections, he would be like, but we're gonna have a nice big golden door, which they can come into the country legally.
Legally.
He would say this.
That's
and
what
so
the
this
word,
time,
right.
he skipped the whole rapist thing.
Exactly.
And he said,
And he made a point.
He's
And he
cleaned
made
up his speech, yeah.
And it's so, some of the people who are against him still say, oh, how can you support someone who has a Muslim ban? What did he do? He didn't do a Muslim ban.
The Muslim ban didn't affect people
didn't
living here.
affect.
Yeah, you couldn't call your aunt to America anymore for a bit. Okay, fine. I mean, but it's not really affecting us.
Even that didn't happen if you think about it.
Yeah, it didn't affect.
What he actually did, he stopped immigration. Why? Because if you really know the immigration stuff, it's piled up for 15 years. Cases have been piled up for 15 years and there are more cases. He stopped taking more cases so that the cases which are piled up, they can start working. He hired more people in IRS. He hired more people in USCIS. No one knows this. Our own uncle, Sharik Mama's case got exceeded during Trump's era. All these cases
Got
jumped
accelerated,
high.
yeah.
You know why?
I mentioned the same thing last time. Same thing. Because I said, yeah, he did those things, but then the only thing I noticed
Yeah,
was that immigration happened faster.
faster.
Cases are being processed much faster.
So practically, when you think about it, you hear these news. That again, coming back,
That's a very
I
good
don't
point, yeah.
hear news. I'll go off of what's happening. So when you look at practically what's happening, is complete opposite of what media always portrays. It could be anything. It could be Palestine issue. It could be Trump issue. It could be Muslim ban. Another interesting topic, other than it relates to Trump, is because you talked about the dynamics voted for Trump. I was saying that Pakistanis, U.S. National Pakistanis,
Yeah.
mainly voted for Trump. And I was trying to figure out why. And I have a bunch of businessmen who have nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with America, literally, but they live here. They all supported Trump and voted for Trump. And I'm like, why? And they were watching this whole thing all night. They were very interested. We need him to win. So why are you so interested? He's like, because he's going to free Imran Khan.
Oh, yeah.
And that was so interesting. And I was like, I don't think he's going to do that. But I could be wrong. But for them, the priority was Pakistan. He said he's good for Pakistan. Trump is good for Pakistan, which is the randomest thing I could hear. I don't know.
Well,
what do you guys think?
Kamala's not good for Pakistan.
That's what they said.
That's for sure. See,
That's what they said
The thing
as
is,
well.
a lot of people don't agree with Trump on everything. But the thing that's most important for them, Trump is still addressing it. Right? Whether it's economics, whether it's anti-woke, LGBT, trans athletes and all that stuff, there's something for everybody. And Kamala's side offered absolutely nothing. And the only thing that she was offering was, I'll bring abortion back. That's basically it.
Pretty much
Their
her entire campaign ran on that.
strongest point in their campaign was abortion, and I'm not Trump. That's basically it.
And the other aspect of this, because he delivers. That's one thing.
He built the wall.
I see patients all the time.
The tax changes.
He didn't finish the wall, but he started it.
But he started.
So here's the thing, though. Most of the people I've spoken to, right, in Fresno is primarily pro-Trump. It's just red.
Yeah.
And so most of my patients, especially the elderly patients, are generally pro-Trump. And so I speak to them and ask them why. And all of them across the board, by the way, they don't like Trump. They're not the MAGA touting, hat wearing, Trump forever. No. They're like, look, I don't like the guy. But you got to say he gets results. Meaning, for the most part, he tries to do what he says.
Yeah.
Right? So, in like one case in point, this is like good news in a sense that there's hope for these wars ending. What is the first thing he said? One of the biggest promises he made, I'm going to end the war.
Yes.
Whether the Ukraine war in Gaza, something, right? I'm going to stop the war. I'm going to bring peace. And so apparently already, early news from today, maybe you guys heard it, is that Trump and Elon Musk got on a call with Zelensky and Trump told him, this stops now.
That's great.
That's it. This stops now. It's over.
What's interesting, he talked to
Start
Zelensky
negotiations.
instead of Putin.
What?
He told Zelensky to stop the war.
Well,
This was a campaign promise for him, actually. He said, before I'm even actual president, I'm going to stop the war. But I want to take a second to actually discuss, going back on our previous episode, like, what does this actually mean for Muslims? And let's talk about the strategy we had going into this, right? So a lot of the strategy that was discussed was regarding Jill Stein, like voting for Jill Stein, and like protest voting against Kamala Harris. And if you look at the results, Jill Stein got an abysmal 0.4%.
It didn't work
of the
out.
public vote.
Yeah.
quite poor.
It was really low, right? And in 2016, which is the example we were mostly going off of, she got 1% of the vote. And that really swung the election quite a bit in Trump's favor, because she took from a lot of the Democratic vote in the swing states, and that led Trump to win. Now, the issue, the whole idea was that this is going to be a very close election. It goes back to the whole pollster thing. Pollster said close election. When it's a close election, you account for all the issues that are affecting the everyday voter: immigration, education, foreign policy, all those things. And there's only a few things that really swing the election one way or the other. And we were hoping that thing would be the Gaza issue. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you can argue the Gaza issue was still very significant. It was.
It flipped Michigan.
Michigan. Now,
throughout the entire voting, they voted for Democrat for every single position besides president.
And briefly, it should be mentioned, everyone, even on MSNBC, even on The View,
They were
the
talking
woman
about-
on The View, they all mention Gaza. It was mentioned
And the Muslim vote.
as one of the reasons Democrats lost. Now, yes, it was later. There was economy. There was this bad campaigning. Kamala Harris's own personality, character, ability to speak. Many things came before that. But always, in the list of reasons the Democrats were not successful in this election, Gaza did come
Right.
out.
No, they always rely on Michigan. They didn't get Michigan.
no,
They get
listen though.
Michigan.
But the thing is, Michigan, even if Trump lost Michigan, he would have still won.
He would have.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
It didn't end up becoming the make or break thing. Yes, it was very significant. And Muslims, you can argue, because Trump won Michigan by just 70,000 votes. Okay. And there's around 250,000 Muslims in Michigan and high concentration in some areas. You can say definitely the Muslim vote swung Michigan, but other states, probably not so much. For all the other states, our strategy was essentially get Jill Stein potentially 5% of the vote and so on. Now, why did Jill Stein not get so many votes, despite everyone trying their best to campaign for her? I'll tell you why. In 2016, the reason she got 1% of the vote was because the Democratic National Convention screwed up a lot of Democratic voters, because they wrongfully selected Hillary Clinton as their candidate, as opposed to Bernie Sanders. Actually, a lot of states actually had voted for Bernie Sanders to be the Democratic candidate as opposed to Hillary Clinton. But the super delegates that are appointed by the DNC themselves represented their states and said, no, we actually didn't vote for Bernie Sanders, we voted for Hillary Clinton. So those people that were disillusioned by the DNC ended up voting for Jill Stein. Also because Jill Stein's platform resonated with them.
It's still left-leaning.
Yeah, it is. People, peace, planet. Okay? People love that stuff. People who voted for Bernie Sanders can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
Now, what happened this time is that Jill Stein's number one campaign thing was about the genocide. That was her thing. She wasn't talking about people, peace, planet. She was just talking about the genocide, which is great, right? She went all in on Muslims, all about the genocide, and that disillusioned her actual base. The actual Green Party base was not too happy with that. Okay. More importantly, they weren't happy with her VP pick, Butch Weir, the Muslim.
The Muslim, yeah.
He actually stated very clearly that transgender transgender women should be men should be competing in female sports, basically, is what he said, right? Biological men should not be competing in female sports.
Yeah.
This was huge. This made waves, but of course, it's not going to fly really well with the Green Party's typical base. So what ended up happening is a lot of her typical voters abandoned her. And from the Muslim vote, which is very small to begin with, we didn't get as many votes for her. So most of the people who did protest vote ended up voting for Trump. And that's fine.
Even the this strategy, by the way, for voting for Jill Stein, even for the Muslims, came very late into the game, right?
It came late.
Early on, it was basically, the whole strategy was not to vote for Kamala, which in everybody's mind was, okay, we vote for Trump. right? That's why even the Michigan imams and stuff, they went up there and they made it very clear. And I think what they did was great, right? And the one thing we could say we got out of this election is that nobody will look at Muslims anymore as democratic. They will look at us, at least the middle party. We could switch.
That's exactly what we wanted to do.
Which is huge.
So even though Jill Stein didn't get a lot of votes, also, I think our messaging should have been simply, if you vote for Jill Stein, you get a chance to vote your conscience against the genocide.
Yeah.
And potentially she can get 5%, blah, blah, blah. But we should just focus on the protest vote part. By talking about the whole 5% thing, which is pretty impossible, honestly, we kind of got a lot of people confused. We should have simply said, protest vote, great option, Jill Stein. We don't care what her policies are.
But
she's not going to win.
I listened to Imam Tom on the Blogging Theology podcast with Paul, and he mentioned this. He said one of the reasons they're talking about this. They said basically our whole Jill Stein Green Party vote thing essentially failed. I mean, 0.5%, 0.4% is nothing.
It's nothing,
right? So it wasn't very successful in that regard. So now what happened? And I think one of the things they mentioned, and I think it's a reasonable point because it's something I also thought about doing when I went to the polls to go vote, is Trump. I mean, I'm in California. It doesn't matter. But in the swing states especially, the people who are in Michigan, think about it. It's very close race, right? By that afternoon, you knew. The polls are still open for several more hours. And now they're seeing it's a very close race. Everyone's been saying in the news for days and weeks now that Kamala's up in the polls. So Kamala's up in the polls. The race is very close. And we know it takes longer to count the urban areas. So most of the votes that come late are going to come for Kamala over Trump. And so now you have a choice. You're going to go to the polls. You can do the Green Party vote. You can vote your conscience. You can vote for Gaza. True. But if the goal was to punish, because we know at the end of the day, we don't even know if Trump's necessarily a better candidate for Gaza. We all knew this.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, now we want to punish them. And if we vote Jill Stein, in this very close race, she may come out on top in Michigan or wherever they're voting. And so now the logical thing would be, and this may be the case for many Muslims, because I thought about it, is that, okay, you know what? I think we should vote Trump. Just in case it comes down to a couple thousand votes, 20,000 votes. You said there's 250,000 Muslims there. They could easily swing the vote. I think they would have voted Trump. Had I been in Michigan, I would have voted Trump. I voted Jill Stein. Because
Michigan makes sense.
In Michigan, I would have voted Trump. 100%.
You know, the other thing is, like we said before, Trump recognizes his friends, and he did. In his victory speech at the end, he not only mentioned Arab Muslims separately, but he also mentioned Muslims,
which is the only religion he mentioned in that speech. I was so surprised. He mentioned Muslims, because Muslim is a religion. First he mentioned Arabs, and then he mentioned Muslims, which is surprising.
And ultimately, what I want to get to is, even though the Jill Stein thing didn't necessarily pan out the way we wanted to, this was still a very successful election for Muslims. Hugely successful, because we moved as a bloc.
We did.
Right? We are no longer a monolithic, democratic, we have this bloc. No, we can move. And that is the most important thing. In fact, the fact that Trump attributed his victory, a significant part of his victory, to Arab Muslims and Muslim Americans and Arab Americans is the biggest thing we could have asked for. Now, any election that comes in the future, we are not a party that can be ignored. We have to be catered to. You have to visit Dearborn, Michigan, right?
Yeah, that's huge.
That's the best thing we could have asked for.
So just to move on, but to stick somewhat to elections, vote for peace. You have some metrics on that.
Oh yeah, vote for peace did really well. I think we got 25,000 visits on election day, and it's
pretty good.
Yeah, it's huge. And in fact, if you look at the 30 days since before the election started, including election day, we had, if you break it down by state, we had the most visits were from Michigan.
That's huge.
11,000, and again, 75,000 votes was the difference, right, between Trump and Kamala.
That's huge.
You could argue almost 10% people may have voted looking to vote for peace, which is great. And this is just the start, right? So inshallah, as we go forward in midterms 2 years from now and 4 years from now.
This is, as we said many times already, this is the first time the Muslims had some vision, some grouping, some cohesion at all.
Even the spotlight, people were talking on different platforms about Arabs and Muslims during the election night.
Analysts were recognizing the importance of our vote,
which is huge.
So did Trump.
The thing is, not voting for Democrats opened up a lot of opportunities. Not just Jill Stein or Trump, but either way, it's just not voting for Democrats. That's it.
Yep.
It's
Absolutely.
not any other policy would have worked, but they knew not to vote for Democrats because nothing's going to change. Every person I met would say the same. Nothing's going to change if Kamala comes in, and it's going terrible right now.
I mean, she said so. I mean, she had an opportunity, and this is on The View. This is like a liberal thing, right? They're like, would you do anything different than Joe Biden? And I think this is literally, honestly, one of the, I would say the biggest reasons why many people might have turned away from her. Maybe thousands and thousands of voters. It's like, would you have done anything different? This is an opportunity to be like, okay, this is where we had shortcomings. Because, and a lot of people mention this, and they mention again and again and again. One of the biggest reasons why this is happening is the economy. Inflation is going up, this and that. Even if, and they always go back to numbers. Technically, numbers don't look terrible, all things considered, this, that, the other. But the people feel it. No matter what the number said, number could say, we're doing economically better than we were 4 years ago. Probably not the case, but let's just say it does. People don't feel that way. They see gas prices up. They see grocery prices up. They see inflation
say
up.
something.
They're making less. You have to say something. So now when they come and say, you know, you were vice president for 4 years. You were part of the Biden administration. You've been doing this, and yet people are dissatisfied with your economic policy. Would you change anything? And what was her answer? No.
Nothing.
After a pause, like, she had to think about this and be like, yeah, I would not change anything. Terrible answer.
I think it hurt her more because she was the vice president. If
Of
she wouldn't
course.
be the vice president in this tenure, it would have probably been better for her.
She kept acting like she wasn't, actually. She's like, oh, when I'm in charge, I'm going to do. You are in charge.
You are in. That's the worst thing. When you are in charge, and you're going against somebody who's blaming everything on you, your administration. It's a problem. I guess her thing was, I'll just own it. I did everything perfectly, which was the wrong answer.
You know, I want to pivot a little bit now to, okay, so now we have Trump as a president. Okay, he'll be the president, inshallah, in the next 4 years.
People are making money. People are making lots of. S&P is up. People who bought the Donald J. Trump stock. He has a company.
his
Truth
stock?
Social, by the way, his Twitter company, is worth more than Twitter. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, because it's a way of betting on Trump.
But X is
the way I'm
private.
betting on
You
Trump.
can't tell, by the way, how much X is worth because X is private.
Oh,
that's one thing people
the
keep saying.
projected value.
X is worth down. It's so hard to say. But anyway, so now with Trump, there's one thing I want to mention though. So I did end up listening to Imam Tom on thing, and he meant one point which I never heard him say. We kept saying that, you know, how is Trump going to be for Gaza? That's the biggest thing. You know, Kamala's bad. We know this. We got to punish her. Okay, but Trump, you know, he has Jared Kushner, this, that, the other. Couple of things we're hearing. Imam Tom said all this. I haven't verified it anywhere else, but no reason not to believe this. Firstly, he said J.D. Vance himself was quoted to have said at some rally, some interview, something. He's like, when it comes to Israel, sometimes America's interests and Israel's interests do not align.
That's huge.
That is massive. That's one. And I forgot the second thing I was going to say. But I mean, it's a good start. Meaning we thought that they're going to be bad. Oh, this is the second point. Big. So Jared Kushner, we know, was one of the main kind of writers who pushed through the Abraham Accords, right? And there is news. Who knows? Too could be rumors. I don't know. But that Trump is saying to kind of this administration that he's forming that he wants to keep Jared away from basically his administration.
That's
Like
huge.
he doesn't want Jared in. I'm not sure what the reason might be. Maybe it's something internal.
If
maybe
that's the
something
case,
else,
that's
but
huge.
It is massive.
It's massive because
I don't know about that.
yeah, I have no idea if that's going to happen because all the Gulf states, all the 2022, 2023, 2030 plans, they were all actually formed in line with Jared Kushner. Even like the new city, the line Neom was very much in line with Jared Kushner. That's how they formed a lot of these projects.
I think it's going to be very important to watch who he appoints in many important positions, particularly Secretary of State. There's actually a significant groundswell in the Republican Party to not appoint Mike Pompeo as Secretary of State because he's a neocon, right? And he's talked about how he wants to continue the war in Ukraine. He wants to continue the war in Israel. He wants to keep that going. So
It doesn't seem in line. Trump has already called and told Zelensky to stop. If that's the case, he's not going to bring a neocon who wants it to continue.
he's bad at picking people.
Fair enough.
We knew that from
but he
2016.
actually acknowledged the fact that he initially, I think he was on Joe Rogan podcast, right? Joe Rogan was asking what you do in the first days of office and what you have to do. He basically said you have to appoint thousands of people. He has to appoint basically 100 some people, which appoint themselves many people, but he had to appoint so many people. He said, at this point, I don't know anybody. So I basically trust the people already there to do their job and I appoint them. And he said something very clearly. He said some of my appointments were bad. They were bad.
Oh, yes.
So the nice thing is he recognized that. Actually, during his administration, he actually fired a bunch of people as well. which is huge. You don't hear that a lot. You don't hear people firing people on administration.
That's one of the Democrats' talking points. Actually, was people in his own administration didn't like.
Oh
him.
yeah.
Which is a strong point, actually.
It is. It is.
We till this day, Umar ibn Khattab, right? He used to say to people, if I appoint a governor and he's bad, I will fire him. I will actually keep firing them every single day if need be. That is actually a sign of a good president, where you're not just letting power sit. He's evaluating them to do a good job. And if they're not doing their good job, he's at least willing to fire them.
Actually, that was his defense. When asked about this, he's like, look, I fire incompetent people. I don't keep them. If someone's not doing a good job, why would I keep them around? If I can't trust you to do a good job or just can't trust you in general, why would I keep you around? You're fired. I'll get someone who I can trust to do the job.
He said that about Mark Cuban, right?
Mark Cuban. Did he say that about Mark Cuban?
He said, he didn't say Mark Cuban, but he actually has a lot of things against Mark Cuban. He said there's
Cuban,
some people,
not Cuban.
Mark Cuban, yeah. He said some people in very high positions. He said they don't say much, but after you become president, they come begging for you for positions. And I think one of these people was Mark Cuban. And he had this whole Twitter spat on him, against him. He wanted a position, blah, blah, blah. And I think he said something against him and he turned away. But there's a lot of people, he says, that come to me for positions. And they're already very well off. These are not like people who lack any power. They just wanted more. And Trump speaks about them, saying that he pushes them away because they're not fit for the job.
It doesn't seem like, on the Mark Cuban thing, and Mark Cuban doesn't seem the guy who's going to be begging, but he mentioned it himself. He came on Andrew Schultz.
He looks like a guy who would be begging.
I don't think so.
Anyways, let's talk about the other big story that happened this week. That's relevant to a lot of the Muslim audience. Well, you can talk about Amsterdam, but I want you to talk about Wisam Sharieff, because you've known him from before. And a lot went down. Would you like to just kind of summarize and
actually, first of all, just talk about how you know him personally.
And also, you don't need to go in very specifics. I think people watching this know what happened, but
I'll give some brief details. One, for those who don't know, Wisam Sharieff's an imam, qari. He teaches the Quran in America, and he's accused of partaking in child pornography. So that's the short of it. But as far as I know him, we traveled when I was 17. I turned 18 while I was there. We traveled abroad to Egypt. A group of about 10 guys, Wisam Sharieff and his wife. We went, and
he was the Amir.
He was the Amir. He was initially going, and then other people found out he was going, and they joined him. Again, that's another story. But they joined him. I was one of them. I actually flew with him on plane from America all the way to Egypt. We landed in Cairo, went to Alexandria. We were there for about 6 months, and as Umar ibn Khattab said, actually, is quoted to have said that to get to know someone, you have to, eat with them, travel with them, and do business with them. And I've done all three of these with him. Now, granted, that was half a lifetime ago. It's been quite a while. I'm sure he's a different person. But from that time, I will just say this much. What he's accused of is not within his character. Yeah, I know he has many great qualities. When you hang out with someone that long, you know his flaws as well. This is not one of them, to my knowledge. People change.
At least at that time.
At least at the time. People change. Maybe I didn't know him completely. I mean, any number of things. So I'm not going to say that, he's 100% innocent. I don't know. Nor am I going to claim that he's guilty. So when I first heard this news, and one of my buddies called me and told me that this occurred. And then I went to the FBI report, everything, read it all in great detail. But the first thing I heard when I heard this even occurred, my instant thing was, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Right? He has just been arrested. There's going to be a trial. There's going to be all this stuff. So until we know for certain, until basically there's a guilty verdict, I am going to assume that I'm not going to assume that he's guilty.
I think this is important. I mean, it may not be the right analogy, but with the Ifk incident, when people were making false claims against our mother, Aisha radiallahu anha, if I'm not wrong, the guidance that was given to us in the Quran was basically to say, if you hear about such an allegation, you should have immediately said, "Hada buhtanun azim," that this is just slander, that this is false. I mean, shouldn't that be kind of our reaction until we've confirmed?
It's true. And again, I agree. Any Muslims out there who are just jumping and now like sharing posts to just say that, oh, look, he was always like this, or sharing some things. And I've seen a lot of his videos. Yes, he has some of a flowery personality. Honestly, he does. But had it not been for this case and somebody showed me that video, I would be like, okay, you know what? Some people are, They have their own style. It's fine. We would be willing to defend them.
He's
right?
a good teacher.
We would be willing to defend
far as
them.
I know.
Now, the issue is that the FBI report goes into a lot of detail. His own wife reported him, right? And so, yes, in my mind, there's a lot, at least through the report itself, that in my heart, I'm not completely confident he will be, guilt-free from this, just based on the report. But again, I'm not gonna go ahead and just accuse him right now until the report.
So when I first heard the news, again, like I said, my first thing was, look, I'm not going to think he's guilty because I don't know this of his character, one. Two is, when I did go about reading the report, first of all, it's just disgusting. It disgusts you,
Absolutely.
right? That's just the initial reaction is like, what, right? And then you start to really process what you're reading. And there's several things. I'll just point a couple small factors that I think, again, we'll wait to see. I'm not saying he's innocent either, but I'm not saying he's guilty either, right? I'm going to reserve judgment. And so I have two things I want to talk. One is, in the point, there's a couple of things. One is one of the biggest things that you could say that is against him in that document is that his own, apparently his current wife reported him. But I should say, this is the first thing I noticed when I read the report. It said that someone, because this is how it came up in the first place, a woman was on the phone who called the FBI who claimed to be the wife of Wisam Sharieff. So I'll just start with this. We don't even know if the person who reported this incident in the first place was actually truly his wife. I'll just start with that. It could be. It could very well be. We don't know, and nor is this verified. We don't know anything. So I'm just going to say let's reserve judgment. Second is this. And one of the first things that comes out that actually made it public was Al-Maghrib's, response. They came out and they said that, look, this individual, we have basically fired him. He's no longer part of Al-Maghrib.
He's in violation of our code of conduct.
Yeah, and of course they have a strict code of conduct, and this is obviously against that, right? It's just illegal, so obviously it's against the code of conduct.
This is the right move. Like, if somebody goes into even an allegation of something so serious, any institution that employs or has a relationship, it is the smartest thing to do is you distance yourself.
I would say just keep language clear.
Yeah.
For example, I heard Yasser Qadhi, just keep language clear. Yasser Qadhi said this. I'll give Yasser Qadhi credit in his 40-minute little kind of post-Isha khutbah, whatever he gave in Dallas. He basically said that, look, these are alleged crimes. He kept using the word alleged. Keep using alleged. Why? Don't assume he's guilty yet. These are heinous crimes. And if he is guilty, he should be punished to the full extent of the law. No doubt.
100%.
I have no, just because I knew him doesn't mean, if he did this, he deserves whatever punishment comes his way. But why are we throwing him under the bus so soon? It's okay for organizations to distance themselves, even fire him until this comes to a resolution. I'm fully on board with that.
Yeah, but making a disclaimer is very important,
Yeah.
saying that, you're saying alleged crime.
Alleged,
then
yes.
State it out that we don't know if he's guilty, something like that, so that his credentials can be tarnished completely.
They already
are. But the whole thing is, when this stuff becomes public, they already are. Now, for us Muslims, and it's part of our deen, right? We shouldn't spread rumors and start stating stuff as if he is already guilty. This is wrong. Like, now we have to look, he's going through his test, and this is a test, right? He could stay Muslim throughout all this, but again, what he did, he will get punished in this world. And until he repents, he it's between him and his Lord, if he is guilty. But this is also our test now, right? We hear something happen to somebody. Are we the ones who are out there spreading rumors, alleging that 100% he has done this just based on our FBI report, and when there's no true verdict that comes out? This is our test. This is what we will be held accountable. So I say, yes, we're hearing the news and everything else, but look at our own lives. Make sure that we are acting correctly, responsibly.
Yeah, I mean, just to make it very clear again for the algorithm, right? We condemn such actions if they were actually done, right? But we reserve judgment until we have the final evidence. And it's a hadith
until
too,
proven
right?
guilty. Innocent until proven
It's also
guilty.
hadith. You don't want to just you always want to confirm information before you spread it further.
But I can see, for what it's worth, the reaction here compared to many other tweets, even the Me Too movement, when people suddenly call things like you can hold a little bit of reservation. In this case, it's an FBI report from an FBI agent. They've already interviewed people. There's a minor involved. The evidence has videos of him, apparently. It all looks pretty damning. I will admit. But there is no clear verdict yet. There will be a trial. It looks bad, but we don't know.
But now I want to watch.
He was one of the imams when I did Hajj. He was one of our.
Oh, he was one of the imams?
He was
So you've
our-
met him as well?
Yeah, he was our imam. He would get khatras every night. He
Don't,
was actually a
don't
very
worry,
good
Allah
khatras.
subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah accepted your
Yeah,
hajj.
accept.
It's okay.
So one thing I want to say is, at least for the organizations, just a lot of clarifying things. The organizations that employed him, again, Islam is perfect. Its followers are not perfect.
Right.
What he was teaching was the Quran. Even though he might not now, be sidelined and he won't be allowed to teach anymore, something like that, but it doesn't diminish anything he was teaching. He was in fact teaching the Quran. The institutions that he was part of, yes, they should make the appropriate steps to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But ultimately, it doesn't take away from the courses. and everything else.
Yasir Qadhi made the same point, right?
Very
He's
good
like,
point.
I taught the seerah and it's very popular and people love listening to it. But know that I cannot fully embody the seerah. It is impossible because that is, rahmatullah alameen. You cannot embody his character, but I still have to teach it. So
And he says, look, the teacher is flawed. This is very important. And he wanted to do this because it was brought up that many people after, who were his students, they're disenfranchised from Islam even, right? And they feel like, oh my God, my teacher who was so close to the religion and now this happened. And Yasir Qadhi made this very clear in his khutbah. It's absolutely worth hearing for those who are interested in this. But he said, the speaker is fallible. The deen is not.
Exactly.
So you can love the speaker, that's fine. But the speaker can fall. The speaker can make mistakes. The sheikh, the imam, the mufti can make mistakes. And when he does, that doesn't mean that Islam has a problem. The speaker had a problem. He can make mistakes. Islam is perfect.
Islam is
There's one more thing to mention in this is Wisam Sharieff obviously is an individual who, if he did this, it does not discredit everything else what he's done in life. There is always shaitan out there trying to get us. And it probably got him. If he did this, it could happen to shaitan can come and can destroy you completely. And he tests you all the time. You're getting tested.
he can mislead you even
And
if
he
you're in heaven.
That's what I'm saying. If he misled Adam alayhi salam, who was one of the greatest prophets, the first prophet, we have to not discredit everything else any individual does.
I think a person can be very evil and then do a lot of good in the future. A person can be very good and then do a lot of evil in the future.
I was so confused by when you said even if you're in heaven. I'm like, when we go to heaven, he won't be there.
Yeah.
No, you're talking about Adam al-Islam.
Yes.
I was so confused.
Yes.
Like, why is shaitan
That's
following you to
that's
heaven?
actually a very good example. I didn't think about it when I started talking, but as soon as you said that, I said, oh, that's a very good
He
point.
was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He saw shaitan. He saw everything.
I mean,
and-
there's more examples. Yunus alayhi salam. I mean, these mistakes that the prophets made were...
So the most important thing is from this is the one thing I took, whether or not this has happened, but this is a reality. Whether or not he is guilty of this, there's many, many people out there, same way as priests, who are guilty of this, right? We know definitely back home in Pakistan,
That happens a lot.
this happens a lot. It doesn't happen to just girls. It happens to boys as well, right? Where, they're playing around with boys and stuff like that. It happens quite a bit. Now, what is important to take away from this? This is not just for intermixing between a a guy and a girl, a young couple who are not yet married, and they can get to fornication, stuff like that. This could happen from meeting alone. This applies across the board. Any guy, doesn't matter what age, meeting with any girl on one-on-one, it's forbidden. For very good reason. Because when one guy and one girl are alone, the third is a shaitan. And this is not just a nice thing to say and talk about. This is reality. And this reality is actually, Rasulullah talked about this in one of the stories he told. I couldn't find a hadith. Apparently, I looked this up. It's not really a hadith in any of the sahihs about this, but this story actually comes up in a lot of tafsir. Ibn Kathir, and all these stories. But it's about Barsiza. I think that's the name. And the story essentially is as follows. Rasulullah was telling about this essentially Jewish monk, or Bani Israel monk. And he lived a very pious life. And he was given charge of a young woman while the two brothers went away. Initially, the story goes like this. He just came and gave her food and left her at the door and went on his way. But over time, the shaitan starts whispering, oh, she's alone. She hasn't talked to people for months. Just say hello when you drop off the food, right? So start saying hello. Eventually it went to, you know what? She's eating by herself. Go eat with her inside the house, right? It eventually went on and on and on. And the shaitan kept whispering every step of the way. Now we're talking about a monk. Mm-hmm. He dedicated his entire life to the deen. And he's an older person too, by the way. He's older, known in the community. At some point it went on and he committed zina with her, right? She got pregnant. Now, the two brothers, actually, I think there were 4 brothers. They were coming back from wherever they went. The shaitan said, they will find out about this and they will hold you responsible. So what he ended up doing, he killed her, the lady and the baby. He buried her, right? And when the brothers came back, he said, you know what? She fell sick. She was already very weak. She fell sick. You know, at that time, people got sick. The brothers said, you know what? Our poor sister, she died of sickness. Fine. But eventually, they start getting dreams. And I believe it says a shaitan or somebody, even in the dreams, they recognize that, hey, something's not right. They eventually find out where she's buried. They confront him. They confront him that you did kill our sister. And at the last moment, when the person was about to die, the shaitan came and said, I will save you, just bow down to me. And the last thing he did before dying was bow down to the shaitan, and shaitan left him. So what it shows you is you could be very pious. And shaitan will take you step by step by step into oblivion. And so in order to avoid this, some basic principle of Islam must be followed. We should never be alone. Man and woman, doesn't matter the age difference, right? And this actually goes further. We have kids. We teach them Quran. I actually have a teacher who teaches my boys Quran, and I have one young girl. Initially, we were like, oh, should we send her to him as well? Maybe I could sit around. Maybe the older brothers can be there at the same time. But never alone. And in fact, it's actually better to never send him to a male teacher at all. Find a woman, a female, who could teach them, right? And this applies if we think, oh, you know, Zoom is the distance, you know, Zoom is, we're not sitting in the same room. There might be some... In this day and age after COVID, we think that, oh, Zoom is a good enough barrier between us. You know, we could talk over Zoom.
No.
But this everything that happened with Wisam Sharieff allegedly was over video calls. It was all remote.
They lived in different states. This was all remote.
So this is something very dangerous, and this is not only for us to be wary of our own children, but this is for us. If we ever get into a teaching position, don't think that, oh, you know what, I am depriving the knowledge of the deen from the sisters and I'm only teaching the brothers. This is shaitan whispering to you. Yeah. This is taking you from, I'm going to teach everybody, to slowly doing one-on-one sessions, to slowly getting to the point of...
I found it interesting. So he was, Sheikh Yasser Qadi at the end of it, he was talking about the policies they had in place at Epic Masjid, right, in Plano. And so he mentioned that basically none of us, and he brought up one point. He said, one, there's cameras in every room, even our offices. Every sheikh's office has a camera. Doesn't matter who you are, there's a camera. So if anything's happening, there's cameras everywhere inside that masjid. 1. 2 was, he says, none of the sheikh, imam, scholars who reside in that masjid do counseling.
This is very important.
None of them do counseling because he says, and he brought up a point. I didn't think about it, but he brought up a good point. He said, none of us do counseling because what happens in counseling? You sit with a single individual for hours, learning all the intimate details about their life.
You feel sorry for them.
You get to know them, and that's when bad things happen. That's when bad things happen.
It is natural. Look, I'll tell you this much. I'm a man. If a woman comes up to me and starts telling me all her problems in life, as a man, I want to fix her problems.
A protective...
And it's a protective, right? And then if you're so invested in her, you would want to develop a relationship with her. Hopefully it's a halal relationship, but that it happens, right? You are completely emotionally invested in somebody because they're telling you all their problems and you're trying to solve it for them. It is a very dangerous position to be, and especially if you're alone. If you're doing this alone, it is extremely harmful.
And counseling, as Sheikh Yasser Qadi said, I mean, I do think some people, some average laymans can be excellent counselors, potentially, but he's like, look, this is very specific training. To do counseling for a living is one thing if some friend comes to me for advice. That's what friends are for. I get it. Family, friends, advice, no problem. But to do it as a living and he's like, look, being a sheikh, an imam, a mufti doesn't automatically make you a counselor. Just because you know usul al-fiqh or something doesn't suddenly mean you're an excellent counselor, or you know the etiquette of being a good counselor. And so he's like, yes, if you have the training and you happen to be a sheikh, more power to you. Nothing wrong with that.
What do you guys think about this
By
case
the way,
versus...
we found a female Quran teacher. Very good. If you
That's good.
Good. I was asking, what do you guys think about this case versus the Nouman Ali Khan case that happened before?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're they're comparing both, but I think there's significant difference.
They're different. Actually, one of the first things I brought up too when this happened too, when I heard the news, I'm trying to think what's going on. Basically, if this is fake, meaning if someone's, if they're framing him or whatever, right? If this is fake news, then how is it? Normally, someone's attacked when they're very famous. Trump, super famous, he's going to get attacked. He's going to get framed. Or whether it's Harvey Weinstein, whether it's Epstein, I don't care what it is, all these Me Too famous actors.
Wisam Sharieff is famous in certain circles. It's not that he's not.
He is, yes. But Nouman Ali Khan, but I'm saying there's clear levels here. Nouman Ali Khan was someone who he was the internationally famous keynote speaker at ICNA, ISNA, name it. Every single conference, whether he was the most educated, whether he was deserving, all the views, all the things, keynote speaker, people love him. And then for that to happen to him, meaning someone, there's jealousy, vendettas, this, that, I'm not saying it can't happen to someone like, Wisam Sharieff. It's possible, but that was the first thing I thought. I don't know.
There was clear dangers I saw from Nouman Ali Khan. I went to one of his, before he got this whole mess that happened to him, I went to one of these conferences. The women were cheering him as if it was a concert.
Yeah.
But before we go too far into that, honestly, the truth is, no one knows what really happened.
No, that's different. But again, the levels are completely different. This is with a child,
and
this is with an adult,
guilty, right?
that he was accused of flirting. Essentially, he was accused of flirting.
Honestly, the thing is
subjective.
No, over here we have FBI. No. Look, there's differences, and the reason why I don't talk about the Nouman Ali Khan incident at all is because there's literally no hard evidence. Over here, this is an FBI court report that we're reading. I don't care what the guy said on Twitter.
Yeah, Nouman Ali Khan was ridiculous. It was an organization called Face, whose people who accused him were faceless. They were. They were ambiguous. They did not come out. It was an organization called Face. They did not reveal who the people who are indicting him. None of it was real. It was such a bogus thing. If you're gonna accuse somebody, put your name on it.
It was the Me Too time.
Yeah,
I refuse to even talk about or bring it up because we have zero facts.
By the way, the dangerous. You saw Nouman Ali Khan, right? You see people like Saad Taslim, like a decent looking imam in Al-Maghrib, right? Wisam Sharieff, you don't have to be good looking either, by the way, right? For anybody, I'm saying all these people, you don't have to be good looking in general. You teach people.
No, he's talking to you.
You teach people Islam. You teach people Islam, especially women. You teach Islam to women. I'm telling you, these people's main base are women. Women are the one who drag their husbands saying that we have to listen to him. Okay? These may be, okay? Can you imagine the amount of DMs these people must get from women? It is a huge fitna. Being a public speaker, being popular and teaching women, it's a huge fitna. And then to take that fitna and do one-on-one sessions asking for death.
I'm thinking about Sheikh Ramadan right now. He's doing a very good job then. Honestly.
Yeah, we know his wife. She won't let him get DMs.
But it's tough. And I remember discussing this when the Nouman Ali Khan incident happened is, when you're a sheikh, and Sheikh Asad Qadi alluded to this as well. Look, I mean, fame in general is hard.
It's hard.
It's a test.
Fame in general is an absolute test. Money, fame, it's difficult. I mean, look at all these actors, actresses, Hollywood people. Their lives often, not all of them, many of them are very miserable. Very miserable. It's tough.
Yeah.
You want to move on to the next topic?
Yeah, so I think let's talk about the Amsterdam thing. I think that's something that happened really recently, and it's worth talking about.
We're hitting the hour mark.
Yeah, I think we can quickly go over this. So the Amsterdam, it's breaking news. It just happened yesterday. And it's amazing because the news coverage are just kind of covering it from the Israeli perspective, right? Where there's a pogrom that happened against the Israeli, the fans who came to watch the sport. But essentially, to break it down, a bunch of Israeli fans came to Amsterdam to watch a football match between their team and the local team, the Amsterdam team, right? One thing to note is Amsterdam did win. But what they ended up doing is
5-0 apparently. Like,
it was terrible.
Good margin.
And actually, Israel has lost quite a bit badly in a lot of these cases. But their fans are going around and watching all these sports apparently. But what's interesting is they don't show the clips in the news of them saying "death to Arabs." Right? They're singing these brutal things to Arabs, and you could clearly tell they really hate Arabs.
In all fairness, some of them showed it. So in order to catch up kind of on what's going on here, I watched Channel 4 News, out of the EU. And they showed everything. They showed both sides. They reported both sides. Granted, there was a lot more. Maybe it's not even their fault. Thing is, the entire cabinet, the government is focusing heavily Netanyahu, right? They're focusing a lot on that. But as far as on the clips, they did show that too. They showed the marches with a chance to, F the Arabs and all this stuff. Yeah, they showed all that.
The problem is, though, that the reaction from the Palestinians was very aggressive.
Not Palestinians, Moroccans,
or whoever was defending Palestine.
What happened?
So what happened is after the Israelis were chanting all this nonsense and everything, the local people who were pro-Palestine amongst them.
No, first tell them what they did. One of the things they were chanting all these things because after the match they came on the streets. One thing is they went. Because 10% of the population of Amsterdam is Muslim.
But let's start in the beginning. So basically, this is a football match.
I get
soccer match, right? Israel is visiting Amsterdam for this match. Okay, this particular Israeli team has a very strong fan base. Okay, they're vocal, they're loud, they're brash. Okay, several days leading up to this game, there were several marches and things. There was Palestinians on one side, right? The Muslims and pro-Palestinians on one side. There were several clashes on these protests. That's one. And then several things happened, as Brian was just alluding to. One is several protesters, they pulled down a Palestinian flag from a building.
They have videos. They're chanting. They're pulling down flags.
They attacked a cab driver. And both destroyed they damaged the vehicle and they hurt the
Somebody
person.
was carrying a Palestinian flag and they attacked him.
Yeah.
Now, about 5 or 6 people attacked him.
What happened ultimately?
So 5 or 6 people attacked him. Ultimately, what happened is the people of the city itself, these 10% Moroccans, they came on the streets and they absolutely beat the living out of them.
Yes, there's videos of them kicking them and saying, "Say free Palestine! Say free Palestine!
Yeah.
Okay, free Palestine! Free Palestine!"
No.
But it's ridiculous.
The video was pretty funny.
It's bad though.
It was bad.
Let's start this. Okay, wait. We should condemn this. Okay, this is. I mean, as funny as it might seem, some of these ridiculous scenes, but it's also horrific. They're literally going around hitting people. This guy just swam into the middle of the river. He's like, "Say free Palestine!"
To quote Mike Tyson, these people are too used to the internet. And they don't realize words could get them punched in the face. That's what Mike Tyson said. Words could get you punched in the face. Okay, they're too used to the internet saying whatever they want. But
you're talking about the craziest man on planet.
in real life, words could get you punched in the face. And there was a video of this guy. He obviously got beat for it is bad. We do agree that it is bad that just people just randomly beating everybody when they were not physically involved in hurting somebody else. The guy who jumped the Palestinian guy. Okay, if you went out on them, it makes sense. It was like 1-2-1, right? But this one guy was getting beat, and he was getting beat so badly. He was saying like, I'll give you money to stop being.
The Israeli was saying?
The Israeli was like, I'll give you money. And he's like, no, say free Palestine. And they made him say free Palestine.
Yeah, but they showed some horrific incidents. And we don't know if the video is actually from this protest, but they show one guy on the ground. He looks like he might already be unconscious and he's being kicked more. So some horrific things happen here. Besides them going around, and this is what they kept alluding to. Is, when it talked to Netanyahu and the government, the Amsterdam government, and pretty much all the Jewish people, it's like, look, this is like these people saying basically, are you Jewish? If you're Jewish, we're going to hurt you type thing. This is what they're claiming. I'm not sure how much has happened.
My question to you guys is, okay, this happened. We all understand what happened now. Okay, let's move on this topic. Is what do you think is going to happen next? Because this is significant. This is not a joke. This could happen anywhere in the world now. And because everywhere in the world you go, you'll have Muslims. Well, and there's significant Muslims in most big countries, if you think of.
I don't think anything major is going to come out of this.
But what
lot's been happening. So Israel has been saying, oh my God, there's pogroms happening. Basically, people are going and
lynching.
There's huge amounts of anti-Semitism happening in Amsterdam. We are sending 2 of our planes. They literally sent 2 planes to Amsterdam to try to evacuate Jews from there because of the anti-Semitism. Again, they're blowing this out of proportion, but this is what they're saying. Now, Biden released a statement. Our Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, released a statement that there's lots of anti-Semitism happening in Amsterdam. We have to snuff it out everywhere it happens.
To be fair to them, okay, let's say it's not happening at that level what they're making it, but it will happen to it. It will definitely happen because if whatever they're doing right now will have an after effect.
It did happen, and it does look like it was planned. Okay, based off the reports. Again, I don't know the right, but I'm saying based off the same news channels are reporting this, they're saying that these people were stationed in specific places as the people were leaving. They caught them as they were running. There's people waiting for them, stuff like that. So it looks like, I'm not saying it's a massively planned attack, but it looks like these people, they wanted to hurt people, obviously, and they did.
And the timing is also important. If you do get into this planning area, then you can argue that this is happening at a time where Trump is talking about ending the war and is, catering to Arabs a little bit. This might push his hand to be like, no, we got to continue this. We got to defend the Israelis.
I don't think that will happen. I don't think Trump is that kind of president. I think he does what he does.
Sure.
I don't think these are. I said it's significant throughout the world. And different countries, you said Dubai, Qatar, hosting that event, and we're very, pro-Palestine event. They're called in Zakir Naik and against India's wishes, and all that happened. And there was a big statement at that point. Qatar was going completely against India. If you think of it, they were saying he's a terrorist. How can you call him?
Yeah.
Similar situation here. This is gonna ramp up pretty quickly if you think about it.
No, so
despite the governments staying neutral, let's say, and most of these countries not saying it. Amsterdam probably is neutral. Let's say. No, I don't know what.
I don't know because it's still in Europe. It's only 10% Muslim. So my only thing is, whatever's happening. Obviously, Israel makes sense. Would say all these things. They've always said these things, to claim victimhood, to, retell about the Holocaust and say the pogroms and stuff like that. That's expected, right? Now, I'm wondering, and obviously Blinken and Biden, that's expected too. They've always supported Israel unconditionally. I'm just wondering for the people of Amsterdam, whether the government will be pressured to do anything.
Oh, they're extremely Islamophobic.
Yeah, very.
The Dutch government is extremely
They've
Islamophobic.
already said, by the way, they had already banned Palestinian protests. And their reason? We don't want clashes to happen. And now they're saying, these aren't protests. These are basically programs and stuff.
Yeah. So basically, everybody is now having to comment on this issue in our government. All the congressmen, everybody has to now condemn this event that's happened. And now what they're saying, what Biden's statement and Antony Blinken's statement was, you should put. We're working with the Dutch government to make sure the people who did these things are put to trial.
Put to trial, yes.
People who
actually
beat the Israelis, and
they're showing like Instagram pictures on them, any kind of pictures taken. They're matching them to their profiles, and they're essentially trying to find them and prosecute.
They've already arrested many people.
Yeah.
Despite them doing that, practically, I'll tell you this: Jewish people everywhere in the world are scared.
Oh, 100% they are.
Of course. I mean, anti-Semitism is on the rise.
They have brought it to themselves.
The Republican Party, the Republican Party. We discussed this last time. They were discussing whether the Democrats are more anti-Semitic or the Republicans, right? Definitely the Republicans are.
Yeah, Sam Harris was saying, should we really support the Republicans? Because the real non-jihadi anti-Semites are on the right.
100% they are.
Non-jihadi anti-Semites.
I think they're kind of
that term is hilarious.
Because I met few Jewish people who've asked me this straight up about what do you think? And they would never ask me. But they've asked me because I feel like
they're worried.
They're worried of what people now think of them and what's going to be the reaction. And I've heard other people who I know, I think one of our uncles was asked the same question. He said, what do you think about this? And I'm like, why would Jews... We're not going to Jews and telling them what we think. They're coming to us and asking us. The media is scared. Every day you hear they have a Muslim speaker. What do you think about this? Please condemn Hamas. Condemn Hamas. Condemn Hamas. Why do you want us on the show to begin with? If you think of it, why do you want before they would never have Muslims on the show?
Now we actually, for this incident, what's happening is a lot of Muslims, a lot of people are telling our congressional representatives to condemn the actions of the Israelis in Amsterdam.
Oh, that's what's happening?
That's what's happening.
You have to be fair. But that's what we've been saying even in Gaza. By the way, this has been going on in Gaza too. We're like, okay, look, I'm happy to condemn Hamas's hurting of innocents, killing of innocents, babies, taking elderly people prisoner. I'm happy to condemn that. I think that's wrong. No problem.
100%.
But when Israel turns around and kills 20, 30,000 women and children, I condemn that just as strongly, if not more strongly. Right?
Yeah.
You just have to be fair, be balanced.
That's the same thing. Some of these news, you said that Channel 4 was giving it more fairly, but some of these news organizations were not selling the other side. of what the Israelis did, what the fans did before the start of what the locals did.
Sure,
to
but
them.
the thing is, look, in the Gaza example, you can say Israel has a right to defend itself, is what they keep saying. But yes, Gaza also has a right to defend itself, internationally recognized right to defend itself against occupation. But in the Amsterdam case, you can't go ahead and ask your congressional representative to support the people who did this because they're not under an occupation. They're in Amsterdam.
No, 100%.
Okay.
The thing is,
you can't be on their side.
The people who did this, right? That's the thing. You could protest all you want. Ideally, they should have came up and protested them louder than them, maybe. I mean, they're 10% of the population. They just stand a much larger protest instead of going around and beating people up.
Violence is not the solution.
Violence is not the solution.
That was just stupid.
So it has hurt their case, no doubt. But there is a general sentiment, like you said on the right? A lot of anti-Semitism. There's a general sentiment that just claiming victimhood constantly from the Israeli, it just looks bad, right? For every single little thing, they claim victimhood, and they stretch it to pogroms, right? For instance, right? And so people are recognizing that. Just like they recognize the nonsense from the left and all their rhetoric, they're also seeing the nonsense of Israel, right? Where every single little thing, even their own citizens, constantly claiming victimhood, hearkening back to the Holocaust or the pogroms, right?
People are saying this the whole notion of calling this a pogrom is anti-Semitic in and of itself because you're belittling the reality of actual pogroms.
Yeah, and actually, I think Candace Owens had a good thing. She was talking to this rabbi about the definition of
No.
Five people were hospitalized.
Just beat the hell out of them.
Yeah,
This is fun.
which is still bad.
It's very bad.
It's still bad. But
I'm
look,
just saying. I'm gonna relate this to completely separate issue, right? If someone comes to the U.S., let's say, okay, Israeli team comes to U.S. and says crap about white people, and says white people are trash,
Death to white people.
Death to white people. Or if you go to Mexico and start calling them
Let's say they did this in Texas.
Okay?
Or
They will beat the
Charlottesville.
hell out of you. They will beat you down. Like, probably will kill you as well. You go to Pakistan.
They got guns in Texas.
Okay, you go to Pakistan, you go to Peshawar, and you say Pathan are crazy. You can't say that.
I disagree. I was in Texas. I attended an ICNA convention. Outside the ICNA convention, there were a group of neo-Nazis with red flags, with Nazi symbols, guns blazing, and there's tons of police around them to make sure that nothing happens. One of our Muslim brothers went and talked to them and interviewed them.
No.
They can't do a thing.
But the Muslims, his point is the Muslims aren't going around marching in front of these neo-Nazis and saying, death to white America. No one's saying that.
Sure.
No, these people are going and saying death to Arabs.
There's one
and
thing.
The Arabs gonna get mad.
There's one thing for them to stand outside and just be loaded and just stand out there, right? There's one thing if a huge group of them just started chanting. And they're chanting to a majority.
Forget majority.
Majority shouldn't matter.
Forget majority right now. I'm saying even if they're chanting to one Muslim person who's on that field, he will get violent after a while. Same way, if they were chanting to one white person saying, you're white trash, that white person will take action.
I would like to close.
One last thing is, I think if you look at it from a Quranic perspective, I think an ayah that could apply here is وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. So when the ignorant approach you and say ignorant things to you, قَالُوا سَلَامًا. Say peace, salam, and walk away.
Again, violence is not the answer, and this
That would have been
perfect.
That would have been a much stronger response, essentially, right? You just basically don't care.
You record their idiocy and whatever they're doing, and just walk away.
In the Sirah, if you remember, we were doing this last week, is where Hussalam, after the Uhud incident, says, don't respond. But the Hadrat Umar could not control, and he did respond.
He did respond, yes.
It is difficult. It's easier to say, but hard to control.
It is.
It's four of us. If someone comes out this door
no
right
doubt. They were incited to violence, but it doesn't mean they should have done it.
They shouldn't have done it. Exactly.
Still,
that's true.
So they're still at fault, no doubt. The people who went and hurt those people, hospitalized those 5 individuals, and hurt who knows how many others.
They should get.
They should get the punishment.
They should get the punishment.
Fair in the law.
100%.
Not now. This anti-Semitism claim.
None of us are saying that they should go scot-free.
Yeah. No.
100%. They should not. But it should still be recognized that you shouldn't be able to incite violence as well. Right? The people who commit the violence should be, full extent of the law, whatever is due to them. Nothing beyond the extent of the law, right? Whatever is due to them, they should get. But we shouldn't condone people inciting violence as well.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
This is also wrong.
All right.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. So we'll call that a wrap. Inshallah, please, people, please like, subscribe to the No Fatwas podcast.
Hit that notification bell.
Oh, and we are starting a newsletter. Inshallah, releasing it this weekend. It's going to be called the Barak newsletter.
Yeah. We will have a link in the description on how to subscribe to the newsletter if you would like.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.